Welcome to the Jordan Lang Podcast. This is a space where we will have conversations on all of the things like business, wellness, motherhood, social activism, and lots more. Come prepared with an openness to learn, grow, and expand yourself just a little bit further with each topic we discuss. Thank you for joining us today. Let's get started. Hey friends, welcome to episode 14 of the Jordan Lang Podcast. In this episode, I'm going to be wrapping up season 2 with a recap and reflections of this season. So first, you might be wondering where the heck I've been for the last 7 months. I've had lots of life stuff show up, specifically in fall of 2022. And I feel like it's been one thing after another since then. I'll probably talk about some of these things in upcoming episodes of the Jordan Lang Podcast. But for now, I'm still working through a lot and processing it all. Part of why I wasn't able to show up during the last 7 months also had a lot to do with not having a sustainable system in place to help support the show on the back end. I don't have a team supporting me, so trying to do all the things podcast-wise alongside all the life stuff and my business, it just really wasn't sustainable to continue in the capacity that I wanted to. So I put the podcast on the back burner. And lastly, to be totally and completely transparent, which is what I'm all about here on the Jordan Lang Podcast, and my socials and all of the things, I felt unqualified to speak on the topic of conscious business. Yes, I was doing my best to amplify the voices of the BIPOC community. However, as a white, cisgender, straight passing woman, there are many others who can speak to this topic much better than I can. So really, I just felt out of my element when taking on this season and all that it entailed. In saying that, I would like to recap my guests from this season, as well as share 2 additional powerhouse humans who I highly recommend you connect with if this is a topic that interests you, which if you're a business owner and entrepreneur, it should. All right, so let's recap. In episode 11, I had an incredible conversation with Mimi Young. Mimi Young is a Han Taiwanese Canadian spirit communicator and shamanic occultist, and the founder of Ceremony, which is an esoteric brand focused on imparting practical ancient wisdom so clients can actively receive support from spirits, break negative patterns, and celebrate their path. Mimi works at the intersection of core shamanism, ancestral wisdom, dream work, chaos magic, and other Chinese mystic practices to communicate with the unseen, offering education and mentorship, private readings, and skin and aura care. In this powerful conversation we discussed what it means to approach business with presence, a thoughtful heart-mind, and a consideration of the seen and unseen. In episode 12, Denise Peters and I dove into the important topic of cultural appropriation within conscious business. Denise is an Indigenous woman from Mexico. As a curandera, medicine woman, an activist, and a lifelong student of the universe, Denise firmly believes that healing, compassion, safety, and dignity should be available to all. She is always looking at ways of giving back to the community and is passionate about Indigenous rights and issues, herbalism, history, space quantum physics, Reiki energy work, tarot, tons of book, and anything food related. Denise hopes to remind every person just how sacred they are and strives to help them reclaim their sovereignty, ancestry, ceremonies, and wellness. In the important conversation we discussed what cultural appropriation is and the importance of taking personal responsibility within our businesses and lives. In episode 13, Amanda Stone and I connected on creating from a space of authenticity and embodiment. Amanda is the founder of Awakened Creators, a spiritually minded creative community devoted to calling creators home to their hearts to manifest their best work and best life. She's a writer, painter, and living room dancer. You can find her on YouTube and Instagram sharing heartfelt advice to help you realign with what you love. In the conversation we had, Amanda and I chat all about authenticity and how living from our heart spaces ultimately creates a better world from the inside out. For those of you listening and watching, I've linked to these previous episodes in the show notes page on my website, so be sure to check it out using this episode's description. I want to follow up season 2's episode recap with 2 additional individuals whom I think you will find great value from in the conscious business space. Both of the people I'm going to share about, I know personally. They're doing incredible things and making a huge positive impact in this world, both on small and large scales. The first person I want to share about is Destiny Stark. Destiny is an activist and multi-purpose creator. She's a civil rights activist, African American studies and criminal justice double major, and a digital educator for racial equality and justice. With almost 52,000 followers on TikTok, Destiny is incredible at shedding light on local, state, and national stories that need to be brought to the forefront so that true positive change can take place. Connect with Destiny on TikTok and Instagram, and be sure to visit her Etsy store for ethically made and size-inclusive items. Lastly, if possible, I highly encourage you to support her activism work, educational content, and emotional labor through a donation via Venmo or Cash App. The second person I want to bring to your attention is Cassandra Solano. Cassandra is a licensed clinical social worker, or LCSW, and trauma and relationship expert. They are a sober parent of 3, plus 1 bonus kid, a survivor of childhood emotional abuse, domestic violence, and is remarried after struggling for a decade in their first toxic marriage. Cassandra uses a mind, body, spirit approach in helping their clients and enjoys integrating psychology, neuroscience, and spirituality to help clients transform their lives. They are highly involved in local activism and regularly speak out against injustices, specifically in the therapy spaces. Connect with Cassandra on Instagram and be sure to check out their podcast, the Change Coven podcast. You can also catch their episode with me on the Jordan Lang podcast, episode 6. All right, so I'm keeping this episode short and sweet, but I just want to say that season 2 is at an end. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening or for reading or watching, however you are taking in this podcast and this information. I'm so incredibly grateful for this space, and I'm excited for all that's to come. Please check out the previous episodes of this season that I mentioned and connect with my guests, as well as the 2 additional that I shared about. If you've learned something from one of the guests, I encourage you to reach out to them and pay them for their time and their energy if you're in a financial position to do so. Be sure to subscribe to the Jordan Lang podcast on iTunes and Spotify, and to my channel on YouTube. Connect with me on Instagram and TikTok at The Real Jordan Lang. Sending you lots of love.